Hello church, and welcome to the next in our series in our alphabetical characters, and we're on N for Naaman. I'd planned to film it here at Tinsfield Springs because we've got the beautiful water, but I think it is going to be a little bit too noisy. So I'll just give you a brief shot at the beginning of the video of Tinsfield Springs. Hi, so I wanted to film the rest out in the fields, but it started to rain, so I've come back into the house to finish off this video on Naaman. So Naaman, you can find his story in 2 Kings chapter 5. Naaman is a strong warrior in the army of the king of Aram, and he's been very successful in his life. And unfortunately, he gets a disease. He gets leprosy, and everything changes. Obviously with leprosy, it's highly contagious and it just destroys your life. So he's suddenly in a position where he's had a lot of power, everyone's been looking up to him, everybody wants him there, and now nobody wants to get close to him. And he tries everything and nothing is helping. And it so happens that previously they'd invaded the Israelites, and he had brought back for his wife an Israelite girl to come and be a maidservant for her. And this maidservant says to her mistress, "Why doesn't he go to Israel? There's a prophet there in, I think it's in Samaria, who can make him better." So the wife tells Naaman, and Naaman goes to the king and says, "Please send me to Israel so I can go and see this prophet." And the king really wants Naaman to be better, so he writes a letter to the king of Israel saying, "I'm sending you my servant, please heal him." So Naaman sets off, and he takes with him, as I'm sure we all do when we visit somebody, huge piles of silver and gold and jewels, and goes to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel opens up his letter and is in shock. What on earth is the king of Aram doing? Does he think I'm God? I can't make this man better. And when I fail, he's going to ask for war. This is ridiculous. The king of Israel is in a state. But living in Israel is the prophet Elisha. Elisha comes to the king and says, "Send him to me, I'll make him better." So the king of Israel says to Naaman, "Off you go and see Elisha, he'll sort you out." So Naaman arrives at Elisha's house in all of his pomp and his splendour, with his silver and his gold ready to gift to Elisha. He knocks on the door, and out comes a servant girl with a message, because Elisha's not bothered to come out and see Naaman. And the servant girl gives the message to Naaman: in order to get better, you need to go down to the Jordan River, and you need to dip into the Jordan River 7 times. So Naaman goes down to the Jordan River and looks at it and says, "What? I'm not going in there, it's filthy. Why can't I go to the rivers back in Damascus? They're much nicer. I'm not doing this." And he storms off. And one of his servants follows him and says, "Naaman, if he'd asked you to do some big and glorious thing, you'd have done it straight away. Dipping yourself in the river is an easy thing. Come on, why not just come and try it?" And eventually Naaman is persuaded, and he goes down to the river and he dips underneath the river 7 times, and on the 7th time he comes up and he's healed, and he is overjoyed and he's better. Now I've tried to choose characters that you might not have heard of before, and I've got lots of reasons for that. One is because a lot of the characters, I just love the stories. And another reason is some of the better known characters I know you're going to have heard teaching from the Emerys and David Sharp and Debs, and I was a bit worried about being compared with their great wisdom and life experience. So it's easier to talk about characters that you might not have heard of. Now Naaman isn't quite so little known, so you've probably heard lots of sermons on the story of Naaman about the difference between being successful and being significant, and how things in life that we look at and think, "Gosh, that's so successful," can turn out to be totally insignificant compared to things that we don't put so much value to normally, and how important it is to focus our lives on the things that are significant. And you've probably heard lots of talks about valuing advice, and Naaman listening to his maidservant. So I thought, I don't want to repeat those. I thought I'd take it from a different angle. And something that occurred to me this time when I read back through the story was the courage that it took to speak up. Elisha's maidservant had been captured from another land, and she saw an opportunity to glorify the God that she believed in and to say, look, I know a God and I know a prophet of a God who can help you. And she spoke up to somebody who had total power over her life. And if it hadn't worked, she could have been in a huge amount of trouble. But she was willing to put herself forward and say, look, I have an answer, and I'm willing to speak up for my God. And then they go to Elisha's house, and Elisha's maidservant is sent out with this message, and she has to appear before this pomp and splendour of this great man from another country. And the message she has to give is, go and dunk yourself in the dirty river. And she did it, and she gave that message. And then when Naaman was so furious about having to get into that dirty water, one of his servants spoke up and said, look, yes, it's dirty, but you can do it. Why would you not do it? Sometimes it can be really hard to speak up. Sometimes it can be really hard to find the words to say in certain situations. But God is with us. And when we're willing to be his vocal piece, when we're willing to use our voices to speak for him, it can have incredibly powerful effects and can be incredibly significant. So that was my thoughts on the story of Naaman for today. Our next letter is O, and I think we're going to go into the New Testament and look at Onesimus, who appears in the book of Philemon. But I'll pray for us before I go. Lord, thank you that we can trust you. Thank you that you are powerful enough to act in a myriad different situations. Please give us the courage to use our voice and to speak up and witness who you are and what you are capable of in our lives and with our family and friends. Amen. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.